Tuesdays with Kelli and Dan.
Hi,
How are
everybody.
you doing?
I am doing well. I just got back from a little bit of an extended weekend. We took our daughter turned 21 October 25th, and we took her and some friends of ours and friends of hers out to Vegas to celebrate her 21st birthday.
Isn't
So
that
we're
exciting?
it was a lot of fun. And what's funny is we were there when she was probably about 8 years old. Um, we did a trip to California. Went from San Francisco down to Hollywood to Disneyland, and we had brought my two older nieces with, who were our babysitters for our kids for the longest time. And we thought, oh, it'd be a nice trip for the six of us to go, and treated them to go with us. And my oldest niece turned 21 at the time. So we're like, well, if we're going on this trip, her birthday literally was 2 days before the trip was over. We got to hit Vegas on our way back. So we flew home out of Vegas. At any rate, our daughter at 8 years old, we stayed in Caesars, and all of the naked statues throughout Caesars just appalled her. And she swore up and down she would never have anything to do with Vegas ever again. Can't believe we even went there. It was the worst place in the world. So here we are a number of years later. She's 21, and we said, well, is there anything you want to do? Her brother, who's about a year and a half older, when he turned 21, was down in Alabama. We went to Jack Daniel's distillery and went to Nashville for a weekend with him. His younger sister might have been with. I don't know. I'm sure she had not drank anything that weekend because she wasn't 21. So,
Yeah.
but
Maynard
at
your
any
teeth.
rate, yeah. At any rate, what do Sydney? What do you want to do for your? I think I'd like to go to Vegas. Can I go to Vegas? Sure, we'll go to Vegas. Thought you didn't like Vegas. Well, but I was 8. Okay.
Hey, when I was about 8 years old, me and my parents and my sister went to Vegas for the international show.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recall going into Caesars, but I recall my sister being terrified of all of the wax people at MGM. So you had
Oh,
like the Wizard of Oz people and all of that. Like she was
yeah.
terrified, like running away screaming. And my parents would have to like get her. And then I also remember my dad was still at the show. Me and my sister, my mom went to see the volcano erupt back
Yeah.
when they had the
Yeah.
volcano.
Mirage, sure.
She hightailed her ass, almost got hit by a car. Thank God some guy grabbed her. But it was like a torture session for her.
How old was she, did you say?
4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I didn't go back to Vegas until Max was about a year old. But yeah, that was so I get the part where she's like, "Oh my God, I'm appalled by these naked statues," and
Yeah.
we were the opposite. We got the wax people creeping her out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it might have been around that time or a little before where Vegas tried to become family friendly. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
that was
recall
about
that,
when
but
we were there.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. MGM even had a amusement park
Yep.
behind it. Yeah.
Yep. We went to it. What else did we do? We saw the Treasure Island had the ship that would sink.
Yep, the battle would go on for yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that back then it was kind of fun just to walk up and down the strip and catch all those shows. And now, well, the Mirage, I believe, as of right now, still does a volcano, but the Mirage was just bought by Hard Rock.
I heard
So
that. I heard
they're going to
that
be
on a TikTok.
rebranding that and
Uh,
supposedly tearing the volcano down and putting a guitar-shaped tower out there, hotel rooms and
what is
stuff.
it called? Bailey's. That one got bought out and they're tearing it down.
Bally's.
There you
Bally's
go.
is now, is it Golden Nugget or something like that
Oh my
bought
God.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of major changes.
Right.
Well, look, we'll get to see them all one more time before they tear it all down.
Yeah, isn't that great? And just a couple of weeks from now. I'm not sure exactly when
Yes.
we'll.
So if
When,
you guys are at the international show and you see us, please come say hi because we won't know if you know us.
yeah, you definitely got to come search us out. Rudy's always saying, find him, shake his hand, have a cup of coffee.
I probably
Um,
won't be having cups of coffee. I probably will having a couple drinks on my adult vacation.
there you go.
Uh, you will also probably see me in a very sparkly dress. So,
Very sparkly.
yes.
Well, that's going to be a good time. I hope that we're able to see a lot of our listeners and that we're all able to get together and hang out.
And
And
don't hesitate to tell us, like, give us feedback. We like feedback. We appreciate it because that helps us improve what we are doing for you and it helps us know what to talk about. Because, like I told you before, it's not the easiest thing to come up with a subject every week. So,
no, it's definitely not. But this week, in fact, just today, you were out doing some commercial work, weren't you?
yes, I've been in commercial mode all day. I was even in commercial mode part of Monday. There is a company in our area, Rob's Commercial Pools, and they only do commercials, and these aren't like your rundown apartment complex type of pools. These are really high end, communities. They even take care of currently the pool at North Star in Tahoe,
Oh,
which is actually not just one pool; it's multiple pools.
sure.
Um, but my dad's friends with the owner and he helps them out a lot with repairs. And so I'm going to start doing that and help them with warranty work with Hayward products. So got to go out to a job site for a retirement community on Monday because they had installed two new pumps onto a single suction line. Something I learned, like I do have some background with commercial, but mine's more of like the maintenance side. When I would have repairs, I would just have my dad take care of it when it came to commercial because in my opinion, it's a little bit more detail necessary. You're dealing with
Sure.
three-phase electrical, gas lines, these
Yeah.
little mini tiny ass rooms that you're shoving all this stuff in.
Yep.
So at that time when I was taking care of them, I just give it to my dad. Also, I didn't have my contractor's license at that time. So he would have to do it by law because you have to have a contractor's license in California to do those repairs. Um, so yeah, I learned that if you put two pumps on a single suction line for whatever reason, to make sure that you do put on this one we put two check valves in, one for each pump on the return side,
Yeah.
because what was happening was even though you would have one pump on, you'd have another one off, and water was still going through that second pump and causing the impeller to rotate, making it into a generator, and the display would still maintain everything. You can read it, you can see the error codes, it would say overpower, and yet when you put your meter on the back of the pump, it says there's no power. It was because it's
Mm.
generating it. So putting those check valves on it actually solved the issue because water was not able to go through that second pump anymore, and it resolved all the issues. So that was kind of neat to learn.
Yeah.
Um,
So it wasn't a ghost pump for Halloween then. It was
no, it was
truly
not. It was not a ghost pump. It wasn't just there for, let's put it nicely.
you didn't
Uh,
walk out with your EMF meter and all
yeah,
that
it's not there
stuff
for
to
decorative purposes to look fancy. They were in competition of who has the nicest equipment pad. Uh, but so that was really cool to learn.
Yeah. Commercial pools, we service mostly residential, but we do have a significant amount of commercial that we do, especially in the city of Chicago. And not all of our technicians are people that go out to commercial. So kind of like you were saying that for the longest time you would have your dad do it. It is something that we, just like you, we feel that you need to have a certain level of experience and just as it takes a while to become experienced with the residential end of what we do. It if you're not doing it every day, the commercial end of things, because the exposure isn't as much, it takes a little bit longer for people, for us anyway, to become acclimated enough that we feel comfortable that they're going to represent us well, do a good job, and not get themselves into trouble where they might open a three-phase pump and not understand that that third wire isn't a ground wire,
Right.
things like that. So I understand that completely. So it's exciting for you to be spending the day on commercial stuff, right?
Yeah, it actually is, because I I love to learn new things, but and some things I'm nervous to do, and I'm like, no, I need you to show me it. But some of the stuff, if it has the same concept as residential, like an example, today I went to another one of their properties, and their multi-port valve was leaking through the backwash. So it's constantly just pushing water, which obviously that gets expensive, at least where we live. Um, you have heated water leaking out of the backwash reservoir.
Yeah.
And so it was neat I was like, hey, this is something I'm totally capable of doing because I've done similar things in residential. It's not like, like you were saying, it's not like I'm going to have to understand the three phase on putting a backwash valve in. They decided to just do a push pull, which was fine. Took me, about an hour and a half, 2 hours to do it. But yeah, I like to go into new situations and learn things. Maybe it's because I went to school my entire life, and then when you're done with school, you're like, what the hell do I do? Because I don't know anything different. So, and then when I was done with that, uh, I went to their shop because Hayward was there to do some training with their employees on Hayward equipment, since they're starting to put it in. So I got to learn about like their XL pump. I got to learn about their variable frequency drives.
A commercial, yeah. That's sure. Yeah.
Yeah, which that was actually really neat. I liked that you can change the speeds of it and the horsepower and all of that was like, I'm like, wow, what these things are capable of doing in a commercial setting is incredible. Got to learn about their H series commercial heater. I even won a gift card to Amazon because they were giving out gift cards for answering questions, because they wanted to make sure that everyone absorbed the information. And so when they're like, what's the minimum, gas pressure with your manometer that it has to be in order to work? And everyone's like, oh, 4. And I'm like, 4.5 over here.
Oh, great. Little brown nosing Kelly back in the corner,
Oh my
getting
God.
her
And
gift card.
I was trying so hard. Like, I'm like, okay, compared to a lot of people, I do know Hayward really well. And so it's like, I try to just sit back and observe and obtain
Yeah.
information and not try to put my 2 cents in. But sometimes, I can't
Well, hell,
stop
there was
myself.
money on the line. You're not going to just sit
$25,
back when there's money. That's
okay?
right. And
$25 for Amazon.
by the way, my birthday's in a little over a month, so I'll give you my Amazon list. You can put that to good use.
I love it. I will definitely do that. But I also got to learn about their chemical controls, their CAT 5500. We got to see, they gave their pointers. I did give, a little bit of information like, hey, if you just can't get the pump to work, just turn not on the variable frequency, but just the XL pump and the control on the back. I was like, just turn it off, turn the breaker off for 4 whole minutes so it can completely power down. And that does solve, even with the residential pumps for Hayward, that solves a lot of issues I found.
Yeah.
Um,
Reboot it just like good
mhm.
old Bill Gates's Windows, right?
Yeah,
Turn it off, turn it on. Oh, hell, we have to do that with our phones anymore too. I mean, my
I have
phone,
to I have to do it every 2 days.
my
Otherwise,
phone,
oh, I was
I
just
have
gonna
my,
say, if I don't, I will miss phone calls and text messages. Like, I'll turn it off, turn it on, and all of a sudden my phone just blows up.
yep, I have my phone has a setting in it where I can have it automatically reboot at a certain time every day.
Yeah.
So at like 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning or something, it automatically turns off and on, and hopefully it's good for the next day. But you had mentioned something earlier with the variable frequency drive. Uh, there's so many potential opportunities out there when the more you know, right? So the energy savings by adding a variable frequency drive to a three-phase motor in a commercial application in many instances is huge. And when you're talking about pumps that are almost every state requires that commercial pumps run 24/7, right? And always those commercial pumps are oversized for the application. If you have a pool that requires 8 horsepower worth of water, there isn't an 8 horsepower pump, so you put in a 10 horsepower pump and you throttle it down with a discharge valve if need be to control the flow. By throwing that variable frequency drive on that pump, you can slow the pump down to be an 8 horsepower pump, just utilizing the three-phase power going into it. And having the knowledge of that being available and the ability, certainly in some areas you need to be licensed a certain way to be able to work on electrical and to do things like that, but the potential of a lot of income that's easily shown to a commercial property manager or owner as to how it's going to pay them back very quickly with their electrical costs, just like we do residentially, is really big.
Kelli and Dan will be right back after these messages.
Have you heard there is a group of pool service professionals nationwide that are here to help grow and protect your business? The Independent Pool and Spa Service Association, known as IPSA, is here to help you. By joining the largest trade organization created by and for pool and spa service techs, you gain access to industry networking opportunities, exclusive educational offerings, IPSA's Tech for Tech route coverage, and more. So be independent, supported, and part of a professional community. Go to ipssa.com to learn how to be a member of IPSA today.
Variable frequency drives on commercial pumps is a great opportunity for adding business and revenue, and it's easy to show a property owner how the payback in their electrical savings is pretty quick, just the same way we do with residential variable speed stuff. The savings, we've actually at times, we haven't done it in a while now, but we had during the winter months when it's slow, a person, one of our senior techs or even a salesperson with the right knowledge would call on commercial properties and do, I'll say, an energy audit for them.
Yeah.
And the main thing we were concentrating on at the time is the addition of variable frequency drives to three-phase pumps for the savings on the energy for them and to drive some business for us in otherwise slower times of year. And we were targeting indoor pools because being in Chicago, of course, the outdoor pools, the payback is much more drawn out because they're only open, 4 months or whatever out of the year, where the indoor ones run year round. So another one of those things to keep your eyes open. And again, when you have the experience of things that are out there and how to do it, opens a lot of doors.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what they've come up with. Like the Cat 5500, it has Wi-Fi to it, so it can send alerts to an app or to a website that you can log into, which I think that's great to have. I learned that it does ORP, it does pH, it does TDS and salt. It even gives a ppm of chlorine, even though that's not what we go by, but that's kind of neat to be able to correlate those numbers so people who are just learning about ORP can kind of see where it needs to be, I guess.
Yeah. We've been using, I know I've said many times, we're primarily a Pentair dealer, and on all of our new construction, it's basically all Pentair stuff. We've been using Pentair's IntelliChem chemical metering system for probably 7 to 8 years on every pool that we build. And we this past year, maybe 2 years ago, I don't recall exactly, but we switched to their commercial version of that same unit because it adds the ability of presenting a calculated ppm. And ORP is so hard for even people in our industry who've been doing this for years to really understand what that means and how to work with it. You throw it at a homeowner with a brand new, $200,000 swimming pool in the backyard, and they just really glaze over and say, it's kind of good because in many cases they say, oh, you guys will do this, right? You'll come out every week and take care of this for me so I don't have to. And oh, yeah, we'd love to do that for you. Thank you. But for that was one of the biggest learning curves in the last handful or so years. So switching to a commercial unit with calculated ppm helps them to kind of get where the two come together, that the ORP value and the ppm values have a relationship. It's not a direct relationship, but it gives them some sense of what they maybe have seen or used in other, in a prior house with a pool, or even if they had an above ground pool or a hot tub, right? Everything is ppm. So
and when you first start learning about pools, that's what's just thrown down your throat is parts per million, parts per million, parts per million. So and I even remember taking in my what's it called? CPO course. That's what they talked about. Yeah, they mentioned ORP, but they didn't go into it, which I personally think that CPO classes should go into ORP more.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're dealing with at these sites.
Yeah, and as technology, today, 35 years ago, about the only systems we saw in our market were strand troll units that were extremely expensive, only on commercial pools that were sort of the upper echelon of commercial pools. But the cost of that technology today is, well, to the point that we're putting them on every residential pool that we build, right? So there are definitely more and more of them out there, and I would argue every commercial pool across the country should have a chemical metering system if they're not already required by the local health department or whatnot, that they should have that to really give the pool a better, safer environment overall. But so people, I kind of agree that CPO should adjust their course a little bit to include a lot more information on ORP and how to deal with those units so that those CPO certified people have more knowledge presented by great people like Rudy and all the other CPO instructors across the country that offer those courses.
Yeah, because it's a huge market and there's a lot of money to be made in the commercial sector, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, there is. And it's a sector that it's again a niche, right? It's I think we've talked before about finding those things that other people don't want to do.
Yeah.
And becoming very proficient at it, and make sure you're charging your weight in gold for what you're doing, because it is a limited number of people who are providing that kind of work. And our industry as a whole, really undervalues themselves far, far too much. You're worth a lot more than you think.
In my area, like with Rob's, they're very well known for doing commercials. They're like one of the go-tos. And I think people also have to, if they're starting to think that they want to do commercial, they need to understand the commercial mentality, I call it. And what I mean by that is there's no waiting around for things to get fixed unless you have to wait for like a permit or approval or an inspection or something like that. Otherwise, it needs to be done now. We can't wait. We, our tenants, our members, all of that are like, nope, we want this. This is what we want. It has to be done now. And you do almost anything you can to do that. Like one of the things that I did like hearing when I was standing there is cat controllers, unfortunately, do need to be shipped to get fixed, and there is a warranty issue. But the reps were willing to work at getting like a loaner on hand at all times, so that the pool would not be down while that warranty repair had to be taken care of. This is where, if you're going to be in the commercial sector, you're going to have to keep pumps on hand, or like, you should have almost a whole system in your garage or your shop ready to go, so that these pools aren't down, because it's a big deal when it comes to commercials.
Yeah, it sure is. And in our market, you were talking about the work you did on that sand filter today. And I'm sure this is common in many states or municipalities. The Illinois Department of Public Health governs everything that happens with commercial pools here. And if we wanted to change a piece of equipment for any reason, if we change it with the exact same piece of equipment, we can do it. No one cares, right? The health department's okay with it. You can just go in and do it.
Right.
But if we wanted to change, say, a sand filter to a cartridge filter, or even in many cases, just simply changing, say, a rotary dial valve to a push-pull backwash valve, changing a chemical feeding pump from a certain make and model to a different make and model. The state of Illinois requires that we get a permit from the Illinois Department of Public Health, and we also have engineered drawings in almost every case showing what's going to be done, how it's going to be done, and so on. And you apply for a permit to do that. And the state of Illinois is not really quick at getting permits approved. And there are many cases where we've had permits even as long as a year. We did a project earlier this year, March or April, that was well over $100,000 worth of equipment upgrades to a commercial pool in the city of Chicago. And we were over a year in the permitting process from the state of Illinois to get that done. So to your point of the instantaneous need of commercial pools, it's a business for them. That pool is a revenue stream of some sort. And we have a lot of properties in the city of Chicago where we will suggest that they consider buying second pieces of equipment identical to the first. And part of this project that I was just talking about was they had one pump spec'd for the project. They bought a second to put in a closet for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that the state of Illinois is such a pain in the butt in getting a permit to change it to something else, they didn't want to take the risk that 4, 5, 6 years from now, they have a problem with the pump and they're shut down because they can't get the exact same thing. So they bought a spare pump, thousands of dollars, put it in storage, and mothballed it so they've got it just in case.
Yeah.
And you're not going to find a lot of properties that do that. The city of Chicago, it's both extremes. You've got the properties that are like that you just dream of having as a client, and then you've got other properties that are bubble gum and flex tape and everything else to keep the thing going.
I will say what I did learn when I was servicing commercials, like when you look at your very first one you ever got to to what you get later on, don't necessarily take every single commercial just because you think, oh, this is good money, because some of these rundown apartments are not good money. My very first commercial I ever had a lot of issues, and we had to get them taken care of. And one obstacle I had with them was I would say the pool was closed. They would open it anyways as soon as I would leave. They would, they wouldn't test the water, or they would have a tenant volunteer test the water. I ended up on that one not getting paid a dime. Mm-hmm. Even did a lawsuit and still didn't get my money. Sure. So it's unfortunate, but what I've learned is you have to look at the neighborhood. You have to thoroughly examine the property.
Right.
And that's not just looking at the equipment room and the pool. That's how are they taking care of the property in general? Like, do you see that there's a lot of garbage around? Do you see that the they have a lot of external repairs that need to be taken care of, because if they're not taking care of the property itself, why would they take care of the pool?
Right.
And
Another thing that when someone goes into taking on commercial work relative to not wanting to take on too much all at once, you have to consider other factors. So we operate with our residential accounts in a cash flow situation where we're always ahead of the game. It doesn't matter what we do, we've got money on file, either deposits or even payments in full before we're ever going out and doing the work. Commercial pools, it's very difficult to do that. So you're inevitably billing for your work, and commercial pools tend to not pay very quickly in many cases. You might want to be paid in 15 days or 30 days, but you may wait 60 or 90 days before you're actually paid. So your cash flow as a business really can be screwed up bad if you go, hey, I'm going to go jump into commercial work and that's all I'm going to do. You can put yourself out of business really quick because you don't have enough money to pay your bills and keep food on the table. And the other thing I've found through the years with commercial is that it's much more difficult to grow the customer loyalty to your business and your brand when dealing with a commercial property as compared to a residential property. In our area, commercial properties almost all have management companies. Those management companies tend to come and go, and you may have a great rapport with the management company this year. The board at that property decides next year they're going to change to a different management company for some reason, and you won't even be able to get them to pick up the phone and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're just done and out. Not unlike when a residential pool owner sells the home. It's a flip of a coin. Are you going to be back out there in the backyard next week, or is someone else that they've used at their prior property going to come in? But residential homes don't turn over as frequently as management companies and managers and the people in charge of the pool and all that kind of stuff. So those couple areas are just something to keep in mind as you jump into commercial, that you want to make sure you're not spread too thin with your cash flow and putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. And if you ever do make that choice to be exclusively commercial, just don't make that jump like right off the bat. I think it's more of a transition. You start with the residentials and you phase into the commercial because, like you said, there's a lot of money that's tied up and you got to pay your workers.
Yep, that's for sure.
And then there are lots of commercial companies. Doesn't mean that they're all great, but doesn't mean they're all bad. And just, I think, don't badmouth each other. Like, let's say your customer's not happy with them. The property's not happy. Oh, okay. You just listen to what they say and you keep it in the back of your head, because maybe if you hear from a bunch of properties that they don't like a particular company, then maybe you don't refer them out. But I wouldn't go around and be like, oh no, they're really bad, or I hear this. It's more of, oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I try to impress upon everyone is you never badmouth anyone, never badmouth another pool company, a property owner. You just, like you're saying, say, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know, or whatever the case is. It didn't just move on with your day. Don't fall into the trap of, and it's such an easy thing to do. We all know of those entities, whether it's a client or a competitor that we feel isn't, the best person or whatever. And it's easy to talk bad about them. It's hard to take the high road, as they say, and not do that. But for sure, you don't want to fall into that. It'll come around and bite you in the ass at some point, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had a good discussion to touch on the subject. But I think, hey, if you guys are liking this subject, please let us know and we'll talk more about it. I think these are a lot of great things to kind of get you, if you knew nothing about commercial, you kind of have little tidbits about it.
Absolutely. And, as Kelly said many, many times, I think I have too, the ideas are, we enjoy talking, and, but we enjoy talking more about things that you guys want to hear about. So if
Yeah.
there's something that you think is interesting or important, or that you maybe think you could pick up a few pointers here or there, let us know. Or if you have ideas that on anything that we've talked about that you could share with us, that we could share with all the listeners, to, something that we didn't hit upon, that's even better yet.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to Tuesdays with Kelly and Dan. And thank you to our sponsors, IPSA and
And the fact that we are sponsoring CMAC, which is an
yes.
awesome organization that we talked about before. We're thrilled to be involved on both ends of the industry as far as giving and receiving.
Exactly.
So both great organizations. If you're not familiar with them, look into them, see how they can help you be better at what you do.
And then we will probably next time give a little bit of how how the pool show went, and we'll come up with some new ideas based off of everything you guys tell us. So thank you for listening to our show, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.